All right, welcome to Nick and Mel's Hyperspace. I am Nick, and my favorite episode of Tales of the Underworld this season had to be the episode called Friends.
My favorite one, I think, was A Way Forward, just because it has that history that is steeped in the Clone Wars.
Okay, that's a good one. I like that one. Yes, so in our journeys through hyperspace, we examine anything and everything related to Star Wars here at Nick and Mel's Hyperspace. Typically, it is me and Carmelo, but we are bringing in guests while he is away in Taiwan. So we're going to get some different perspectives. And, of course, the will of the Force all brought us together and the internet. So we appreciate that. And Justin, again, has been on the podcast before, but thank you again for coming back, my friend.
Anytime you need it.
What a trusty co-pilot we got here. I wanted to do this episode so much sooner because I watched this on May the 4th. I don't know about you.
I definitely did.
Life got in the way. You did too? Okay. Life got in the way for me. Here we are, Memorial Day weekend, finally getting to it. I had to rewatch it because I had been a while since I watched it. But I really love this, and I'm excited to talk to you about it because there's a lot of cool connections through other Star Wars shows and media that we're going to touch on. But I think we're going to structure this to make it easy, because I have ADHD and I'll jump all over the place. Let's just do the Ventress episodes first, and then we'll talk on the Fat Bane episodes. And then you said you had some Easter eggs you wanted to share with me, so I'm excited to see because I wasn't really looking for any when I was watching these.
Yeah, I love anytime we can connect certain things to either different series or just in the Star Wars universe where you're like, oh, I had no idea that they were referencing that, or they put that little subtle thing in there. So it's always cool to find those.
Nice. Well, let's start with the Ventress episodes. What did you think? And then what you said your favorite episode was? That was the third one. What was it called again? I'm sorry.
No, the first one.
Oh, the first one.
Called A Way Forward.
Oh, Way Forward. Okay. I forget the episode titles. I just remember liking Friends a lot. But yes, A Way Forward. Okay. So what did you love about that episode?
Well, I just love the whole reference to her and Quinlan and the connection that the two of them had. And it was very much an attachment connection that he is not supposed to have at all. But from everything that I've seen in Quinlan's stories and read in the comics and stuff, is he's kind of skirted the rules all the time as far as having attachments. And he a lot of times would get very close to using the dark side when he was in battles and stuff like that. So he's such a dark type of Jedi character that he has been one of my favorites for a long time now. So anything you have a reference to him or his story, that's automatically my favorite.
I was very shocked that they touched on that. I know we talked before we started recording. You hadn't read Dragon Cycle yet, but it's on your list. So for anyone watching, if you haven't read it, we are going to spoil it a little bit. I already talked to Justin. He's cool with me spoiling it. For a book that's almost 10 years old now, which is hard to believe. It's one of my favorite Star Wars books ever, honestly.
Yeah, it's already been spoiled for me many times, so
yeah, I'll get figured. So, for those who don't know, it's a story. It was supposed to be in episodes of the Clone Wars that never got made, written by Katie Lucas, George Lucas's daughter, and they ended up adapting it into a novel right around the time they reset the canon. Delves into the relationship between Asajj Ventress and Quinlan. This picks up right at literally the end. That's the ending scene of the book, as Quinlan dropping the body into the lake at Dathomir with Kenobi. How did you feel? Because this kind of relates to Bad Batch and her return. How did you feel when they brought her back to the Bad Batch and her just coming back in general? Did you like that change? Did you welcome it?
I didn't really have too strong of an opinion because I, once again, haven't read the novel. I know a lot of people were upset because of the sacrifice she made in the book. A lot of people were saying, well, that her sacrifice was kind of pointless then if you're going to bring her back. And I get that. But like they did the same thing with Darth Maul. They brought him back because he was such a loved character. And people love Asajj so much that of course they're going to do everything they can to bring her back. And I think the way they told this first episode, it made it make sense. They dropped her into what essentially was like a Lazarus pit from Batman, and she was given the choice to come back and start living her life again, but with a sacrifice involved, I loved it. I was fine with her coming back because she is such a cool character. And as long as they make it make sense without taking away what the novel did, or what is the word, retconning it, which I don't feel that they did, I'm totally cool with it. I liked it.
I also love Ventress and think she was, to me, one of the more underutilized characters in the Clone Wars. I think there's a lot to explore with her. Mixed feelings in her coming back because I love that novel so much. And I do wish that novel had properly been introduced into the Clone Wars like it was supposed to. I think it was supposed to be a 7 or 8 episode arc, which would have been insane for Clone Wars because that usually does not happen. So I am glad that story got told. You and I love the Star Wars books a lot, so those are like sacred to us, and we hold them up in such high standards. And I think there's a lot of online about people being upset that a book's comics get overwritten or retcons. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think this retcons anything. The book still exists, still happened. This is kind of like the epilogue to the book, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad that her coming back, there is a cost. Like, this isn't just her going to get to reunite with Quinlan and live happily ever after. She is told, you can't, when you come back, you can't be involved with him. Like, that part of your life's done. It's kind of like, in a way, so it's very similar to the Jedi. Like, you can't have attachments. So I thought it was very poetic in a way, which Star Wars is very good at being poetic like that.
And I did find that the concept art that they were going to do for that season of the Clone Wars, with Quinlan taking her,
that's cool,
to the pools on Dathomir there, that's kind of what they modeled that little prologue scene after, was the concept art for it. So I thought that was great that they took from that. Yeah, it was a beautiful way that they told it and explained how she arrived in the Bad Batch. Yeah. So have we established a timeline? Because it seems to me like, obviously the prologue takes place right after Clone Wars, but the rest of it, I think, takes place after her episodes in the Bad Batch.
Interesting. See, I was wondering about that too. I have no idea because they don't really specify.
Mm-hmm.
I assumed it took place before her appearance in the Bad Batch.
I'll explain why, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So we know that the Bad Batch takes place roughly 2 to 3 years after Revenge of the Sith, during their little adventures that they have with Omega while she's still a child. So that, we know, is just maybe 3 years at most after Revenge of the Sith. However, the context clues I'm using for the rest of the episodes that have Asajj in Tales of the Underworld, they keep referencing the paths that Quinlan has started to rescue the Jedi and keep them safe. The last time we heard about that was in the Kenobi show, which takes place about 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, when he's been living on Tatooine. Because he references the paths and see Quinlan's name on that wall when he's reading all the Arabesh, and he says Quinlan was here. So that's about a 10-year gap. So I assume that she's been doing all these odd jobs, like she's doing security for some sort of transport company when we first meet her on that unnamed planet. So that's my context clues I'm using. Is this the regular episodes after the prologue are roughly 10 years? That would be my assumption.
That makes sense. Actually, that makes a lot of sense.
So the only thing that takes away from my reasoning there is that the young Jedi that she helps out only looks to be about 12, 13 years old, roughly. Right. So it's like, there's no way he's been on the run for 10 years from the Clone Wars. So
does he references being Padawan? Is that right?
Right. So that tells me that maybe it's a shorter timeline. Maybe it's only, let's say, 3 to 5 years. Maybe these take place right after she leaves, helping Omega.
Batch. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. So maybe it's within 3 to 4 years, but before the Kenobi series. So who knows?
Yeah, because we don't really know when the path was established per se.
Right.
That's a good point. Because the Padawan that she teams up with, Lyco, I think is how you say his name. Mm-hmm. He does not look very old. So if it's been 10 plus years or 10 years, he would have had to been like a toddler when all this happened and Order 66 happened. I imagine a 2 or 3 year old is going to be on their own, escaping Inquisitors and Jedis and other characters. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they didn't really explain it. I don't know why.
They kept it pretty vague, but I want to say it's probably within that gap of time between Revenge of the Sith and Kenobi. I want to say they fall right in there somewhere, but they kept it pretty vague as to when.
Right. That's true. We'll see. Maybe they'll explain that further. I think that has been these episodes, I will tell you, are my favorites of all the Tales of. Like, these are even more than the Dooku episodes. I love these episodes the most, mainly because I love the relationship between Ventress and the Lyco, the young Padawan. I think they're just, they work so well together. And we often in Star Wars, we see a young female character has like an older male character, like mentor. We haven't really seen the reverse where there's a young male protagonist with a female mentor character. So I think that dynamic's fun. Their sense of humors clash pretty well. And the first two episodes were they fed into each other. Like, they were directly picked up where the first one left off, and all these other episodes of Tales of, they've not done that. So that felt like an extended or a whole episode of maybe a pilot to me of a series, and which is my complaint of the show, which is not a bad complaint, but I want more after these episodes. I want to see where these two go. His decision to stay with her, even after getting to the path, was really cool. I just don't know where they're going to go with Ventress, and to me, if you bring her back, it needs to be in a big way. To me, I don't know if an episode in the Bad Batch and then these 3 episodes justify her resurrection. They may have other plans for her, but as of right now, I don't know if it justifies her coming back, because if this is all we're going to get from Ventress, which we don't know if that's going to be true, but if this is all we were to get, this is very underwhelming, bringing up such a major character back like that.
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest complaint that the creators want to hear, right? Is we want more. If that's the only thing that the fans are complaining about, then I guess the creators did their job. Yeah, it seems like to bring a character back from the dead and create such controversy about her ending in a book and why they brought her back. You need to give us more as to why. Give us the justification as to bringing her back. So far, I mean, as much as we love these episodes, it doesn't justify resurrecting a character unless we're going to get more. How awesome would it be to see her in some sort of live action show or movie that she pops up in? Even if it's only for a little bit, it would still be cool to see. I would absolutely love to see another spin-off of like a part 2 of where they go from here. And then also very interesting is at the end of the 3rd episode, as he's leaving to get on the ship, she says, "May the Force be with you." And it's like, whoa, someone who used to wield the dark side and be a dark side assassin is now uttering that phrase, to someone she's wishing well to, which is such a change character. Yeah. So I would love to see more of her development of to becoming someone different, Imagine a team up between her and Ahsoka based on their history.
Yeah.
Because Ahsoka's no longer a Jedi, as she's
around. She's around at this time.
Yeah. And Asajj is no longer a Sith or Sith assassin. They're both kind of meeting in the middle, And imagine some sort of team up show where they both, have some sort of crazy mission. There's more sacrifice involved. Give justification as to why they're there together or why Asajj is back. That would be great.
See, my thinking was before Celebration, I had a feeling it's like they're probably going to announce the next animated show, what it's going to be. I think most of it was going to be Ventress, because, we just brought her back. She was in Bad Batch. That would be the next logical, what should do after Bad Batch. We kind of felt like these episodes were like a backdoor pilot to another show. And I will say this, as I love Darth Maul, I think he's one of the best written characters. And he, to me, makes the Clone Wars way more interesting. I kind of would rather have had a Ventress show over a Darth Maul show, because I feel like we've gotten a lot of Maul. We know where his story ends. Right now, we don't know where Ventress' story ends, and I would love to have seen where she goes. I would have loved to see just her and Lyco, kind of like in that last episode, just going around the galaxy, solving everyday problems for people, and inspiring and spreading hope. And like a Ronin character, type character. But they, I don't know, maybe I'm sure there's a good story to tell with Darth Maul there, but I would have rather seen Ventress get her own series. I feel like there's a lot to explore there. We kind of know where Maul ends up and kind of a little bit of his history. Ventress, we have no idea, so I think it would have been way more interesting to see where that goes.
Hey, I say why not both? I know a lot of yeah. I know after the Solo movie came out, a lot of people wanted to know how Maul got mixed in with Crimson Dawn and all that.
Right.
And so maybe this is the answer that we've been waiting for all these years after. When did Solo
Hopefully.
come out? 18?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've been waiting
7
for that for
years.
7 years. So maybe we're finally getting that. What's to say we don't get Asajj's story as well?
Yeah.
Nothing stopped him from doing both. As long, I mean, I'll have no complaints about getting either one. I just want more of these animation with these characters, these actors. Yeah, give me these storytellers because they are great. I mean, we're getting, in a way, it's similar to Mandalorian, where it's another lone wolf and cub story, and Filoni loves to do those. So yeah, give us more of the story about where her and Lyko go. I will say though, before he revealed his name, I was like, this is going to be Kyle Katarn. That's exactly who this is going to be. And I was even telling my neighbor who was watching it with me, because he's a massive Star Wars fan too. I was like, they're gonna say he's gonna say his name's Kyle. He's gonna do it. And then when he said his name was what was it, Lyko Strada, I was like, oh, I was so bummed. But I'm like, it's cool. He's a new character. He's fine. But I so badly wanted him to say Kyle Katarn, because I'm like, it would be so great to make that character again.
That would have been awesome.
So,
there's a lot of fan theories that it might be Kyle or even John Malwood from Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, that too.
So a lot of that online before this came out. So I'm okay with it being an original character. He was very, very likable. I was surprised how much I latched on to him really quickly, because usually those younger protagonist characters early on, like Ahsoka or Ezra, were kind of hard to get it invested in. But he was like, immediately, I was like, I like this kid. I think he's cool.
I quickly thought it was the same voice actor who played Ezra, because he sounds just like him. And so I thought it was, but then looking it up, I found out it's not him, it's somebody else. But I thought it was Ezra right away, the same actor.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, his voice sounds very similar. And I've been listening to a podcast where that actor's on it, so I'm like, it's his voice. It's got to be.
Vermillion.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I love that podcast. I've been keeping up with it.
Yeah, you did too.
Yeah, I think I'm a couple episodes behind, but I try to listen to it weekly.
Yeah, it's a really good podcast. So yeah, that's who I thought it was. But no, apparently they brought back a lot of actors from previous shows to do voices in this as well.
Yeah. And I will say,
this is obviously goes back doing Asajj and stuff, and they did bring back the original Quinlan from the Clone Wars episode that he was in. The same actor, he's back as well.
He sounded great. He looked great too. That animation, like he looks so much better than he did in his Clone Wars episode. Like the hair was great. I mean, the animation keeps improving each of these shows they do, and I just love it. One thing I will say about the Ventress returning, I feel like there's a reason they brought her back, and I trust the animation department at Lucasfilm. Even with my hesitancy towards Maul, I feel like they're going to tell a great story. I was proven wrong, because when that was announced, I was not. I was like, why are we getting these characters that are just kind of regular? It's just like a little arc that I didn't really care for in that final season. It turned out to be one of my favorite things in all of Star Wars. And the Dooku episodes, I was like, why are we getting Dooku's backstory? It turned out to be incredible. Mm-hmm. So I trust the animation team to tell a great story. And maybe when the Maul show's done, we do get that Venture show. And Ashley Eckstein, I'm sure, is always down to return as Ahsoka, so she might pop up in that show. Who knows?
Yeah,
a lot of possibilities.
I would love to see all those actors come back, especially in those little story arcs when you're like, why are we getting this? No one really wants this story arc, and then all of a sudden you see major things happen to that character, and you're like, that's why we got it. Like, yeah. I think even in Dooku's, we finally get an answer as to what happened to Yaddle, after during those events, and you're like, that was hard to watch. Yeah, it just hits you where you're not expecting it, and it just kind of takes the breath out of you when those credits roll, and you're like, I was not expecting that at all.
But this is heavy for Star Wars animated show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is definitely adult content, as far as the emotions that you're going to feel.
Yeah, so we'll see where Ventress ends up. I trust that we'll get her story resolved in some way or some fashion. Mm-hmm. Hope Lyko was involved. He'd become an instant favorite of mine. Just their dynamic's great. It's a good Master Padawan type dynamic that hopefully we'll get to explore more of.
I agree. I would love to see part 2 of their story in the next Tales of whatever they want to call it. Tales of Underworld 2, Tales of Asajj and Lyko, whatever they want to call it. Yeah. I would love to see more.
Hopefully so.
Yeah. Would you like some Easter eggs for the first story arc?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's do that. Yeah.
Should we break it up into pieces?
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds better.
One thing I noticed, remember when they're at that transport company where she's working as security. Lyko comes in and he tries doing the Jedi mind trick. It is almost exactly like Qui-Gon and Watto, the exchange and the words that are said, where he's like, these credits will work, and she's like, no, it will not. It's almost exactly in
I
verbatim.
noticed that too. I did notice that.
But then the stormtrooper that does get tricked by Asajj, that's actually voiced by Steve Bloom, who does Zeb.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, didn't realize that was him.
They brought him to do that voice. They talk about the path that we've already talked about, how that shows up in the Kenobi show. We see other characters that were from the Clone Wars, like Latz Razi, who was that bounty hunter, as well as C-21, who was the droid.
It's fun seeing them again.
Yeah. And I guess the actress who plays Latz Razi, she's actually married to Seth Green, who does the voice of Kodo 360.
Oh, cool. Okay.
In the Cad Bane story. Or not in this story, but he's Cad Bane's little droid.
Yeah.
The voice of C-21, he's done tons of different voices for Star Wars as well as sound editing. But he did the voice of Grogu, Two Tubes, and Rado the Hutt.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So he's getting around.
Diverse background there. Yeah.
In the episode where she meets the guy in the wheelchair in the third episode, the war medals on the wall actually have the separatist hex icon on them. So he's a former separatist general, and he's also voiced by the same guy who did Eno Cordova in Jedi Fallen Order.
Cool. Okay.
The older one who you see all the holograms of. And they did the whole, at the very end of it, they did the whole riding into the sunset through a canyon like they did at the end of the Kenobi show, where they're on that like creature that looks like a Eope. Yeah. And so I thought that was a cool little reference to the Kenobi show and like the same type of journey. Also, I noticed the symbol for the poster of the show has it's Arabesh that looks like a 7 with 2 lines in it. That's actually the Star Wars symbol for credits.
Okay. I thought it looked familiar. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's what I got for the first story, or for the first arc.
Some fun ones. And I've listened to a lot of the Rebellion, and they've talked about how a lot of the voice actors will get, they'll sign a contract to do like multiple, or at least 3 voices. So they'll do like their character, and then they'll do like a small role, like a stormtrooper, a civilian, or something like that. So it's cool, and I love seeing those voice actors come back and work in Star Wars.
Yeah, it's really fun to see them come back. I agree.
Nice. Okay, this is some fun ones.
Yeah, I'm sure there's tons that I missed. There's
some of those I didn't catch. Yeah, some of those I had no idea, especially the voice acting ones. I had no idea those were the same voice actors as previous characters.
Yeah, a lot of those you won't know until you look up, like you go IMDb and look up who they are.
And the credits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Well, shall we talk about the Cad Bane arc?
Yes, the Western of the two.
You're wearing your wonderful Cad Bane shirt, which I adore. That's a good
from Heroes and Villains. Okay. Great website if you want Star Wars apparel.
I've gotten some hats from them. There's some really cool stuff there. So
sometimes they run really good specials too, where they'll have everything discounted.
A ton of good Star Wars stuff on there too. So not just Star Wars, but they have Marvel, DC, Star Trek, all kinds of stuff on there.
Yeah, I went and saw Sam Witwer in Pasadena a couple weeks ago, and he was wearing a Hunter one from Heroes and Villains, because I recognized it from one that I thought about getting, and it had Hunter's helmet on it, and I was like, oh, cool. Like, you got that from Heroes and Villains. He's like, oh yeah, they send me a ton of stuff. So he was sporting it also.
So we love that. Love that synergy there.
Yeah.
How about that? Well, so what did you think of this origin story we have for Cad Bane? And I'm surprised it took them, 17 years, it seems like, to get an origin story for Cad Bane. As far as I know, we've never seen one in comics or books or anything before. So this is pretty cool that we're getting an animation.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think of this arc?
I definitely think it needed to be told, because he has had such a resurgence in popularity, especially after showing up in Book of Boba Fett.
And Bad Batch. Yeah.
And Bad Batch. Like, he has just become such a he's almost like the new Boba Fett.
Kind of.
Because since Boba Fett's kind of stepped out of being like the main bounty hunter that everybody loved for the last 40 years, we all now love the blue Duros with the weird accent,
And the hat.
And that iconic hat. Yeah, and I want to talk about that hat too in a
Me
minute.
too. I have some thoughts.
Yeah, I loved the origin story. I feel like it was kind of an easy story to tell because there were so many tropes that it took from other westerns or mafia style stories that it kind of was an easy one for them to tell. So there was nothing too original about it, but I did enjoy it because of who it is and who it's about. But I felt it was, although enjoyable, I felt it was very unoriginal.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I was remember watching the first episode and I got very big, like, you know, crime drama from like the 70s and 80s where, you know, younger character trusts a bad guy, gets caught, changes his whole life trajectory. Um, the relationship with him and Nero is very like classic, like, two kids come from the same neighborhood and they end up, one's on the good side, one's on the bad side. Nothing original there, but very, very well told, I thought, in this little episodes.
Yeah, it was very much a like Oliver Twist story at the very
Yeah,
beginning, where there are a bunch of street kids just living out of whatever they can, running little cons together just to get food for the day.
just to make it, yeah,
Very Charles Dickens there in that story.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, and I guess it didn't really surprise me, but like you see a character like Cad Bane who, what they've done with Boba Fett, they've kind of made him sympathetic, and with Cad Bane though, they've never really shied and made him sympathetic. I don't really think they tried to do that in this story, but it's interesting to see where he comes from, which he basically comes from nothing. He mentions having a mother, but he doesn't really remember her. It seems like,
Hmm.
and so essentially it's just him and Nero growing up on the streets together, and that's the only family he's ever had. And then he kind of finds a family with this new bounty hunter character. I forget his name already.
It was it started with
Laszlo.
an
Laszlo, that's what it is. Yeah, yeah. Basically, took with him and kind of getting introduced into that family. It made me think of I don't know how much are you into hip hop, but it made me think of a Kendrick Lamar song actually.
okay.
There's like a song called Duckworth, and it's about his father growing up and being involved in gangs. But the last verse of the song, he mentions you have two strangers and put them in the same predicament. Um, give them a soul so they can make their own choices and live with it. And that's kind of what made me think of when I was watching this arc. We get two guys from same neighborhood, same style of upbringing. One joins the mafia, the crime family, and the other one gets arrested and probably gets put on a better path. Even though he did get arrested, it seems he ends up being a deputy and then a marshal.
Hmm.
Um, so I just thought that was very fascinating. How if Colby, as they call him, would have got caught, would he have ended up the same way as Nero? Who knows? But it's just interesting how one choice or one decision in life just changes the whole trajectory. And to me, that's Star Wars. Star Wars has always been like certain characters make a choice, and it has a ripple effect for multiple people.
Yeah, I think we've seen that exact storyline, that exact trope reused a bunch of different times in films growing up, where like two kids go different paths because of circumstances of whatever happened to them and like the influences that they have along the way. I mean, Cad's story is so reminiscent of any Chicago style like crime family growing up with them. There's so many references to like Godfather and other crime stories in that. I mean, that planet that they're on, I think it's Duros or wherever they're from. They don't
Yeah,
specify, but it's very much space Chicago. I
yeah,
mean, you even have like the L train going by them above the street.
true.
It's very reminiscent of that to give it that mafia style feel.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't really specify the planet, but there are a lot of Duros on that planet. They seem to be the most populated species there, so
I
I
think
would imagine it's
we see Duros, Twi'leks, a couple Aqualish, and I
right.
forget what else, but it's
There's some
heavily
human characters there too. Yeah.
right, like the deputy and stuff or the sheriff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. Something that really, Star Wars does this thing where it seems like two things will come out around the same time, and there's a trope that happens. Sort of like with when Bad Batch and Mando came out, there was a young child character gets saddled with the older gruff character, and they have to kind of raise this new found family. And spoilers for those who've seen Andor, we get a character who doesn't really get to know his father. The father dies. This one, we get a similar situation with Isaac, who clearly it's Cad Bane as his father, but he doesn't really know him or doesn't get to know him because Cad walks away from him. So we get these two kids growing up without a father. Very different types of fathers, obviously, with Cassian and Cad. But I just found that interesting that Star Wars kind of did that recently, back to back, with the kid growing up without a father they'll never get to know story.
Yeah, and you wonder if it's a coincidence or not, where they
keep doing
tell
it.
a similar situation like that, but different paths.
Right. They keep doing it, so I'm not surprised if it's not a coincidence.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was planned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's taken from so many different like Western tropes too. I think especially in that last episode, there's a lot of references to a 1952 movie called High Noon, where a character comes back after being imprisoned for a long time, and the sheriff has to deal with him because they have a history between the two of them. So yeah, they're taking a lot of references from that film.
And Westerns are a big influence on Star Wars, so I think that's very fitting and very nice that they're,
especially with the music in this episode or the story too. There's so much Western music in it. It was pretty cool. I was waiting to see
the classic. Same here. I'd say the classic showdown in the street with the antagonist and protagonist. That was interesting. Yeah, I kept thinking of like, man, this is just like classic Star Wars because it's a Western with a futuristic setting, and they just execute it so well. I mean, it's really nice to see the spaghetti Western still influencing Star Wars here in 2025.
Yeah, and I love it when they do that, as long as it's not too overly done. But I do enjoy that aspect and that influence in Star Wars, because you watch some other sci-fi stuff like Firefly, for example. It's basically a space Western. So, and that's enjoyable because you wonder about like if we ever have space travel. Would we live in a futuristic society like Star Trek, something like that? Or would it be just outlaws, Western style, living on these planets that are very, very lawless until they develop a stronger society? You never know which direction it would go.
No, Star Wars, likes to do that lawless outlaw style, anything goes kind of stories. I mean, it fits with the setting and the vibe. Let me ask you though, because I'm curious. Similar to Boba Fett, there are some characters where I feel like, and Yoda, I don't feel like I need to know their origins per se. Do you think this was fine? Would you have rather not seen Cad's origin, or would you think this is it's a nice little insight into the kind of character he is and who he becomes later on?
I don't mind it just because his character is so popular, and after the end of Book of Boba Fett, do we know if he's dead or not after Boba stabs him? They didn't
really say. Specify.
I mean, he's laying there after he's been stabbed, but it doesn't show him completely dead. You don't know if he survives it.
They don't mention it either.
So, yeah, obviously, if he is dead, we can't go that direction in his story. It's done.
Right.
So the only way to get more Cad is let's show how he started.
Flashbacks, yeah.
Yeah. Which I'm completely fine with. Was it necessary? No. Was it enjoyable? Yes. Will they use more Cad in the future? I'd be down for it because I love Cad Bane stories. Corey Burton is one of the coolest characters or coolest Star Wars actors to listen to, with the voices he can do.
It's crazy.
And I will find myself trying to imitate Cad Bane's voice when I'm alone.
Same here.
Yeah, because it is such a unique voice and so
Love
cool.
That voice. Love that voice.
So I will not do it on here, but I will do it in private. And I feel like I do a pretty good job of imitating it. It is just one of my favorite voices, one of my favorite characters.
What's so distinct? Like, whose voice it is. Like, there's nobody else that sounds like him. Yeah.
And like, he's just such a likable character for being so evil on one single path. There's no redemption for him.
No, there's no gray area with him.
He's just an angry person. And like in Book of Boba Fett, when they finally show him in live action, he is terrifying.
Yeah, he is.
Like, imagine seeing that in real life, living in the Star Wars universe. Like, that is a terrifying character with those red eyes and just fangs coming out. Because he's got slightly extended fangs there when he was talking. Like, the terrifying character.
He does.
Knowing that he could draw on you and kill you with less than a second.
He rivals probably Crosshair as being the best shooter in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Minus the scope.
Yeah, so no, it wasn't necessary for us to have this story, but I very much welcomed and enjoyed it. I would not mind if we got more of him too in some sort of series. Don't know if they'll go that direction, but I wouldn't be upset about it.
Yeah. And they don't specify the time frame when this is, but I do know there is a Darth Maul series written by Colin Bunn that came out around 2017 or 18, right around Solo, actually. And Cad Bane shows that. And that's a prequel. It takes place prior to Phantom Menace, so Cad Bane's around. So this is obviously well before the Clone Wars, probably well before the Phantom Menace. So we don't know exactly how old Cad Bane is. I don't, nothing I'm aware of. I'm sure there's a Wikipedia has that information, but just kind of cool seeing a kind of state of the galaxy prior to the Clone Wars and the Phantom Menace. I always enjoy those kind of stories too.
Yeah. And I think it's completely fine that they don't give us an exact timeline. We just get like a vague idea of when it took place.
Right.
I don't need to know exactly when it drops. I think that kind of leaves it open too. If they want to tell more stories, they can kind of push that puzzle piece around as to where they want it to fit. And I think they do that on purpose so they don't paint themselves into a corner as well.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, and so I noticed this has made me think of Anakin too, actually, in the Phantom Menace. Now that I mentioned the Phantom Menace, is the show, like Colby in the show, he's not a evil kid. Like, of course, we know where he ends up. He's a very menacing bounty hunter and not very ruthless. But in the show, he's not presented that as a child. Like, he's just a kid trying to make ends meet. I mean, he ends up becoming one of the most ruthless bounty hunters in the galaxy. That's similar to Anakin's story, and I like how those two parallel each other. They're just kids from unfortunate circumstances that end up seeing the ugly side of the galaxy and end up becoming very dangerous and evil people. So Star Wars is very good at showing that, like, evil people, they're not always evil. Like, you're not just born evil. Maybe Palpatine is, but every other character, we get kind of anybody could have paid for that situation, ended up in their shoes.
Yeah, I think the moral there that they're trying to show is people are products of their circumstance a lot of the time.
Right.
And it's also on a personal level, it's telling you to choose your mentor wisely because that's going to heavily influence where you end up. Whether it be your parents influencing you, which you don't have a choice there, or just the mentors you choose along your career path or your social paths or whatever it may be, those are going to be heavily influencing the decisions you make going forward.
Yeah.
And who you become.
What makes me think of Solo too. I mean, Beckett was his mentor in that movie, and you obviously see kind of Durán, the trajectory he goes, choosing Beckett as his mentor. So, Star Wars is good about showing that anybody, it's the choices we make that define who we become, not where we come from necessarily.
Doesn't somebody say that in the prequel era? Like we're something about the choices we make? I think there's a Star Wars quote about that.
It probably is. I'm not remembering it off my head.
I know Qui-Gon says, like, your focus determines your reality.
Right.
But I feel like there's another quote about the choices we make. Sure, I got to read it.
I'm sure, after we're done recording, we'll probably come across it somewhere.
Like, damn it, we should
we'll watch something and it'll be from our face.
Yeah, we'll get it. But did you have a favorite episode of those three?
I really enjoyed the last one, the episode title, just the culmination of everything. And it's just, heartbreaking to see two childhood friends end up on the opposite sides. And then the twist of, because we don't see the kid until he mentions Isaac, but then when he shows up, you're like, this is clearly Cad Bane's kid he's raising. Like, this is his best friend's kid.
Yeah, and I think they use the color specification to show you that.
To show you. And I think the mother was, her name was Erin, I think. She was blue too, blue skinned like Cad. But I noticed that my second watch through, I didn't pick this up the first time. In the second episode, when he goes and confronts the marshal, she says to him twice, two different instances where the first one she says, like, there's more at risk than you realize. And I don't think she's told him yet that she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he has that confrontation, she goes, I'm fighting not just for you. There's other people that are going to be affected by this. So I thought that was a cool one. I didn't even catch that the first time. And then now we're watching it and knowing that, he ends up having a child like that. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Why she's trying to stop him from doing this and going down this path. She knows how Laszlo was. And, she's like, oh, he's becoming Laszlo, not a good man.
Yeah, there's there's a couple things she said that kind of reminded me of Yoda, where she says like, how far will you let this anger take you? And we all know where anger leads to, according to Yoda.
True.
And then she says, there's another line, I think it's in the second episode. I forget what she says something about letting this go. And it's when after Laszlo's dead. And I think that's the final thing for Cad's transformation, because he's already changed his name and changed his identity as to who he is. You know, it went from being Colby to Cad. And then that scene where he puts on Laszlo's hat is his like final transformation.
Right. Like he's set on that path now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the ultimate, like the nail in the coffin right there. Where like he's not coming back. This is the decision he's made, and he's going down his revenge path. But that hat reminded me, I know you and I wanted to speak about it. It totally made me think of Indiana Jones.
That's exactly what I thought of.
Yeah, of how he takes his old mentor's Crusade hat. Yeah, same type of reference there. And I guarantee that's on purpose, Dave Filoni being such a George Lucas protege.
Well, they had some Indiana Jones references in Bad Batch as well. So, it totally didn't shock me that that's what's going on. As soon as I saw the guy, just unnamed character with the very exact same hat that Cad had, I was like, oh, we're going to do the Indiana Jones thing, which was a very fun callback and nice reference there. I was actually thinking when you said you had Easter eggs, that's going to be one of the Easter eggs that you might have said.
Yeah, it definitely was. It's on the list.
Nice.
At first, like when we first see that Laszlo standing against the wall in that classic Cad Bane pose, I thought that was Cad Bane, and then he starts talking, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like, that's not Corey Burton at all.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, I can't believe they did this. Yeah, my first thought was they did this without using Corey, and I was kind of upset. And then you realize very quickly that it's not Cad, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I was so,
it's one of the boys. Yeah.
I was like actually very like, I'm like, why would they do the show and not use Corey Burton?
Yeah.
So I was happy to see that I was wrong for the first few minutes there.
Does Corey Burton voice Colby/Cad through all these episodes? Because he has a very, obviously you see the transformation by the final episode, it's Cad Bane that we know, but the second episode, he kind of has that young mix between.
Younger Cad is actually voiced by, I'm going to butcher his last name, AJ Locascio, who does Gambit in X-Men 97.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And he does like Han Solo for some of the Lego Star Wars stuff.
Neat.
He does a great Han Solo impression, a great Harrison Ford impression. But yeah, so I think he recorded the voice for it, and then they digitally make it sound younger. I forget what the tool they used, but he did younger Cad. I don't know about the childhood one, but I think he did like the teenage one in the second episode.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that progression of his voice becoming the menacing voice that we know. I think that was cool.
Yeah, I don't know who did. I don't know if I caught it or if it was anybody that we've heard before in anything else, but I don't know if it was him as well for the youngest story arc or the first episode. I did notice a cool, when they're banging on the machines, the vending machines to get food and stuff like that. The one of them is like a gonk droid that's like set into the wall. And he's sitting there.
See that.
Yeah, Nero is sitting there banging on it, trying to get food out of it.
That's funny.
Yep.
I didn't even notice that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's in like the first 10 seconds.
Are there any other fun Easter eggs that you noticed in this little arc?
Let's see. Takes his mentor's hat. We talked about that. Laszlo is voiced by Philip Anthony Rodriguez, who plays the fifth brother in Rebels. Adult Nero is Art Butler, who does Admiral Akbar in the Clone Wars. Okay. I talked about High Noon already, and we know Isaac is Cad's kid. There's no questioning about that. The mayor of the town, who's in the courtroom, she's a female Duros. She's played by Gwendolyn Yao, who does the voice of Nala Se.
Oh, okay.
And there is a reference. So I guess I didn't know this, but I found this one in my research. So when they're talking about crunchies, as in the first episode, they're like, "Oh, we're just looking for crunchies," which is like their candy and Fruity Pebbles or whatever it may be. Yeah. I guess that's what the cereal that Cyril eats in Andor. Those are called crunchies. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's kind of referencing that, and I didn't pick up on that just by my own. I found someone else said that online. I'm like, oh, okay. I wonder if that was on purpose.
Interesting.
Because I don't remember if they named what that cereal is in Andor. Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised. As we talked about, probably not a coincidence that they have some references to each other.
And what is that stuff that Omega and Wrecker eat after they celebrate a mission?
That's Mantel mix, is what they call it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
because
always
they're
get
on
it.
board Mantel.
Yeah,
So
they're
that
on
makes
Mantel. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's. I don't know if that's exclusive to Ord Mantel, but yeah. But it looks very similar. They have a very similar texture to it.
It looks like a Captain Crunch fruit berry cereal.
Right. Some kind of trail mix form.
Who knows? Maybe we'll see that on a Star Wars cereal box someday.
I mean, that'd be great. Or they'll put it in Galaxy's Edge, I'm sure. Some crunchies. Yeah.
Oh wow! Or didn't they have one where you can get some sort of coffee-based drink that's chocolatey coffee-based, and then they have something like that sitting on top, and I can't remember what it's called. I wonder if it
Really?
references that or not. Yeah, they've got something there. I haven't had it though.
I'm surprised Mantel mix. I don't know. I've never been to the Disney parks, but I'm surprised that's not like a snack you can get at Galaxy's Edge or something. I'm surprised.
Who knows, dude? They're so good with their marketing that we may end up seeing it someday.
I'm sure they will.
Or,
Yeah.
Or a lot of times they come out with like special Star Wars menus for May the 4th when they do the whole Star Wars nights at Disneyland. They have like a special menu of stuff that you can order, but it's only for those specific nights that are like the overnights at Disneyland. So they may have it for those. I don't remember what the menu was last time I went.
Okay. That's interesting.
Who knows? When you come out and we go to
Well,
Galaxy's
yes,
Edge.
I'll have to check it out. Maybe they'll have Mantel mix as a regular thing there by the time we get there.
Maybe. Who knows, dude? I think we need to, when we get to 2027 and we're going to Celebration and Disney, we need to do a Star Wars night because they'll be doing it for like 2 weeks out of May.
That'd be fun.
Oh, that's in April though, huh? Celebration's in April. We'll miss that.
We'll have to miss it. We'll still go. I still would love to go to the park there. Yeah.
It'll be fun.
It'd be fun. That would be.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I have to ask, because it seems like this is going to be an annual thing that they're doing on May the 4th with these little Tales of series. I guess this is the past 3 years they've done it, or 2 years? I don't remember when
We've gotten 3 now, right?
3. I guess the past 3 years they've done it, because I know last year they did Tales of the Empire. I had an idea, and I'm sure you would love this because we've been talking about Andor. And if they never do a Tales of the Rebellion, I would love to see episodes on Vel or Clea, or what they're up to, or Will even, see what that crew's up to during maybe the original trilogy, or even right after a Rogue One. I would love to see their reactions to all that. I think that would be like one of their best.
I think if they do that, they will tell both sides like 3 episodes about a specific rebellion character, 3 episodes about an Imperial character, maybe chasing that rebellion or chasing that character from the rebellion,
Or maybe, yeah.
Both sides of the coin.
Maybe like Dedra, see what she's doing in the prison, or if she ever gets out of the prison.
Oh man,
that'd be interesting.
What a way to end up at the end of that.
Yeah, that was wild. I was not expecting that.
Because think about, she talked about being in some sort of kinder care for the Empire.
Yeah.
So she's been involved with the Empire since childhood. That is the only thing she's known. And to have, at the very end of it, she put her all into it, and to have them still turn their back on her and imprison her.
That's crazy.
The despair I don't feel sorry for her, but the despair that character
must feel.
To have the only thing you've ever known, the only structure you've ever known, do that.
Another one I thought of, speaking of Tales of the Rebellion, because, I've noticed in these Tales of, they like to do a dichotomy, one good, one bad.
Yeah.
You could also do, we saw it in Andor, but we could see more of Saul's descent into madness and his journey. We could see like Saw Gerrera on this side and maybe Luthen on the other side, how they branched off and went their separate ways. Or even like I said, Vel or Clea, we could see. I think Saul would be, because he's already been in animation, he would be an easy one to kind of pick up and bring that voice actor in, or bring in Forrest Whitaker again and let him reprise his role. I would love to see that.
I think they've both done voice acting for Saul in the animation, right? Because I think
there's a younger voice, and then there's Forrest Whitaker. I don't know who does the younger voice. I can't remember, because he was in Bad Batch.
Yeah, but I think Forrest Whitaker did the Saw Gerrera for the Rebels episodes, maybe?
He did, yeah.
But they brought the other one back for when he shows up in Bad Batch, I think. The one from Clone Wars.
Right, the younger one. Yeah. And I think, is it the first Fallen Order game that Saw Gerrera shows up? I think it's Forrest Whitaker in that game.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so
yeah,
I would like to see that journey into the, for Saul. I think that would be an easy place for him to kind of show up again, because obviously he's dead, so we're not going to get much more of him.
Yeah, that could be. I would love to see more of Luthen's story. I love that flashback episode we got of him and Clea when she was younger,
Right.
to show how they developed their friendship and mentor / student of the rebellion. Right there's another example of lone wolf and club.
Yeah, true.
Lone wolf and cub storyline there.
Yeah, they love that lone wolf and cub story. Star Wars is very big on that.
Yeah, they really are.
They really love that.
You see it in all aspects: Jedi and apprentice, Sith and apprentice,
right?
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Animation, live action. I mean, we're getting it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're hoping, if they make a 4th series, you're hoping for Tales of the Rebellion?
I think that would be the next logical one. I feel like that would be digestible and it'd be nice. I think it'd be very popular, especially if you use characters from Andor. They could go other route. I mean, we know Omega joins the Rebellion. We could see her, what she's up to, how she joins the Rebellion. That'd be an easy way to get some Rebels characters like Hera and Chopper and Zeb back in it. There's a lot of different directions they could go with that.
Yeah. I always wonder about that when they have characters who clearly live past, or that they live up into the original era.
Right.
Where you're like, okay, what happened to them?
Where are they at?
Where did they go?
Yeah.
Yeah, are they dead? But if they're alive, how does their story still affect what happened in the original trilogy?
Right.
Like, they never get mentioned or anything like that. So what's going on with them?
Well, we know Hera, she obviously has lived through to the New Republic and is around. And, they kind of reference her in Rogue One, and we even see a whole episode of how they get those hammerhead ships. So it's neat how they have retroactively made these animated and even live action characters like influenced, and we get expanded. And even like character like Mon Mothma, who has been around for 40 years now, who for many of that time was just a background character who we don't know much of, but has become way more important than she ever would have if we never got a show like Andor. So it's cool to see her pop back up.
Also, Andor is like a classic example of a character who, like, he's strongly influenced the events of the original trilogy, but we need to see him because they explain very clearly as to what happened and where his story ended. Yeah, so like characters like Omega, what happens? How does she influence the rebellion? What happens to her?
Is she on the Battle of Yavin or the Battle of Endor? Like, is she around?
Like they did with Rex, didn't they try to retcon that and say that the old guy with the beard on Endor?
Kind of.
And the bearded guy is Rex, is a grown man now because he survived everything.
I think Filoni wanted that, but I think he backpedaled. And then I know Charles Soule in his comic run, he basically just straight up said, there's a character named Nick Santee from Legends, and he's still around. Like, he's still here. So I don't know who that's supposed to be in Return of the Jedi. I think it's whoever you want it to be, but
yeah,
I like the idea of it being Rex. I think that's cool. Helping out Leia and Han, and kind of full circle for him, getting to see the rise and fall of the Republic and now the fall of the Empire. So personally, I like that, but I totally understand if people want Nick Santee to be around.
It could be either. I would love to see a Tales of the Sith.
Yeah, we haven't got that yet.
I would love to see something like that where we get some dark side stories as to what's going on with them. At first, I thought maybe let's get like a Tales of the Old Republic or something like that. But I don't think they would do that this close to us getting a Old Republic movie.
Right.
Because
with
we
James
still have
Mangold.
that. Yeah, we have that coming soon. So maybe like they wouldn't do that because we're already getting something from that era. So maybe some sort of Tales of the Sith to show like something that's going on in the background of everything else.
Right. And maybe once that James Mangold movie comes out, maybe they do Tales of the Old Republic and they get to flesh out some characters from that movie or in that era. Yeah. Maybe they're saving it for then, if we get more of a concrete idea of what that movie is going to be about and where it takes place.
Plus,
Tales of the Sith is another one I'm surprised.
The Tales of the Sith?
I'm surprised that's not been a thing yet. I thought that would have been the next logical step after Tales of the Jedi.
Who knows? We may.
Well, that might be next year's. Who knows?
I'm down for it.
I mean, we're getting that Darth Maul show. I think it's supposed to come out sometime next year, so maybe they won't double dip, but they may,
I can't tell you how excited I am for that show just because I love Darth Maul so much.
Oh, man.
He's in my top 3 Star Wars characters.
He's up there. He's definitely up there. He's definitely one of my favorite villains. Villains usually aren't my favorite characters, but he's definitely one of the best villains, I think, in the whole franchise. And I am very curious to see where it goes. I was not disappointed. I was just like, man, I really wanted something different from Star Wars animation. But I trust the team. They've done great work over the years. Over the last 20 years now, they've been technically Lucasfilm Animation's been around. So I trust they're going to do good things. And, who knows? I don't expect it to be a very long series. I couldn't imagine them doing a, Clone Wars style 7-season, but it may be more of a Bad Batch style where it's 2 or 3 seasons and then we move on.
I don't see it being more than one season. I think they're going to put together a story and just say, this is why we made the story. They'll get right to the point. Yeah, maybe like 12 issue, or I'm sorry, 12 issues. Season. 12 issues. I'm so used to reading comics. It'll be like 12 episodes for the entire season. But I think it's going to be a one and done to explain how we got done.
And how he ends up in Rebels.
Yeah, and then once we get there, we know what happens. So I don't see us being oversaturated with more Maul stuff because Maul clearly has an ending. I think they're just like, there's this tiny little gap of time that they want to fill with something there, and they know anything with Maul is going to be gold, especially if they have Sam Witwer in there.
Right.
It's just going to be pure gold.
Well, we got the kind of a little bit of the origin of Crimson Dawn a little bit in the Clone Wars. Like we see the boss, the Pikes, and then Dragon Boss was there. So I imagine he's going to be a character in this new show. Like I would love to see where he comes from or how he got involved with Maul, if they touch on that. So a lot of cool potential with that show. I didn't get to see the celebration footage, but because I want to be surprised by it. But I am from what I've heard, it looked good and people are very excited about it.
Yeah, I don't think the celebration footage gave too much away, but it did look great. It looked really, really good. And I imagine now that you mention it, that we will probably get a small little prologue that shows that meeting that they were having at the very end of Clone Wars in, I think, season 7.
Yeah.
It'll probably be that leading into Crimson Dawn. I just give me more Maul, please.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this.
But yeah.
Let me ask you this. This just made me think of this. Have you read the Son of Dathomir comic?
Yeah.
Okay. Any chance we're seeing that adapted or even retconned? Or do you think they're just going to kind of brush over that and just do their own thing?
Maybe there will be references to it, but I think this is a completely new story. When I was meeting Sam Witwer a few weeks ago, I was listening to him talk to other fans while they were in line, and he wasn't trying to give too much away, but he was so excited about the show that he was talking about how much input he had in the decisions of the show and the decisions of Maul, because he's like, I think the creators were like, Maul more than the rest of us, so we want you heavily influencing this. And so cool. I don't think they'll adapt it, because I know the way he knows Maul is Clone Wars Maul, animation Maul, not comic book Maul.
Okay.
So I think they may do references and stuff like that, but I don't think they're adapting it. I think we're just going to see a completely new story.
Nice. Okay. I hope so. I mean, not that I would be, Andor and then Bad Batch have kind of retconned some things where I'm not like, upset that they've retconned it. I still think comics have their place, and I really hope they at least honor it in some way. But I like the idea of an original story with Maul that we have no idea what to expect. So that excites me a lot.
Yeah, and I do like when they reference certain things that happen in books and comics, but I think they've made it very clear that what happens in the movies and the animation and stuff takes precedence over
It's more important.
Books. Yeah, so they may tweak a few things and say, well, this is how it really happened. The comics and books are
like a certain point of view. Yeah.
So they've made it clear that what's important between the two.
Yeah, well, that's good with me. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen the praises of Star Wars animation constantly. It has become my favorite Star Wars, my favorite storytelling in Star Wars. Some of my favorite characters in Star Wars have come from animation, so I am excited to see whatever they put out, because they have not failed me yet, even with shows like Resistance that I didn't love, but I liked. So I still think that there's a lot of potential for them to tell incredible stories for years to come.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see more. I have no problem with any of them animation at all.
No, they've all been, even the ones that aren't the greatest, they're still enjoyable to me. So
even the 1980s Ewok Android series are still enjoyable for as dated as they are.
I haven't seen those yet, so they're on my list. I'm going to get to those at some point. So
well, you gotta watch them, since we will be talking to the Ewoks writer pretty soon.
Yes, I'll go ahead. Yeah, that's a good segue. As we're wrapping up this episode, our next appearance with Justin will be talking about the Ewoks miniseries that came out last year with Steve Orlando. So I have never gotten to chat with him before, but he was very kind in his emails and was very excited to join us. So I'm very excited to pick his brain. And I think this is the only thing he's written in Star Wars as of right now. Hopefully he'll come back, but that series is fun. I'm excited to talk about it and dive into it. We'll reference the Ewok movies and the cartoons and things like that. So I'm sure Steve is a big fan because there are some things I've noticed he's brought from those series to the comics. So I'm excited to see how much leeway he got and kind of his process of making that story.
There's definitely some influence, and it'll be fun to talk about.
Yeah. So that'll be coming hopefully end of June, maybe beginning of July. So you guys keep an eye out for that. We got more stuff in the works. Next is Andor. I'm bringing on one of my friends who is a history major, and we're going to talk all about the history of the world and the real life influences that brought into Andor. So I'm very excited about that.
Cool. Can't wait to hear that one.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So everyone, thank you again. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep up with our episodes. Justin will return. He won't be in Avengers Doomsday, but he will return to our podcast. So I am excited to have him on.
Every Marvel film, this person will return.
They will return, yes. I'll put that in the end credits of this episode. Justin will return.
I always thought that was so pointless when they put that on there. It's like, we know.
Yeah, we know. We've already seen the casting news, and they're already filming it.
So it's a Marvel movie. Nobody dies for good.
Not for long.
No, we know. Yeah. All right. Well, this was fun. It's always worth it. Always worth a rewatch, too.
Yes, it is. May the Force be with you, and thank you guys for being a part of the show as well.
Thank you.